The Last Stand of Sergeant Brooks. In the heart of a small town in the Midwest, nestled between the rusting remains of old factories and the open stretch of farmland, there was a man who carried the weight of war, history, and a promise to protect. His name was James Brooks, a black man, a veteran of the Vietnam War, and above all, a family man. Sergeant Brooks had returned to civilian life after serving his country. But the scars of war remained both visible and hidden. He found solace in his family, his wife, Clara, and their 2 children, Marcus and Destiny. Their house was modest, but it was theirs, nestled on the outskirts of town, where they could enjoy the quiet, away from the noise of the world. He worked as a mechanic at the local shop and lived a simple life, but there was no escaping the unspoken tensions in the town. Racism simmered beneath the surface, and the Brooks family, being one of the few black families in the area, was often reminded of their outsider status. Still, James held his head high after all. He had served his country, and he had earned the right to be there. But nothing could prepare him for the storm that was about to hit. A gang, known for its racist beliefs and violent ways, had begun to terrorize the town. They called themselves the White Reapers. They were the kind of men who wore their hatred like a badge of honor, tagging their symbols on walls and intimidating those who didn't fit their narrow view of the world. They had crossed paths with James before, but never directly. The old hatred was enough. They didn't like that a black man had the nerve to call himself a war hero and live in their town one evening. As James was working late at the shop, Clara called him. Her voice was strained. "James, they're here again," she whispered. Fear in her tone. James didn't need to ask who they were. The White Reapers had taken to harassing his family, throwing rocks through their windows, scrawling slurs on their doorsteps. But this time, it was different. Claire's voice shook as she told him they were parked in front of the house. A few of the gang members were standing in the yard, taunting Destiny and Marcus. James could hear the faint echo of their jeers through the phone. His mind raced, but his body was calm, like a predator in waiting. "Stay inside. Lock the doors. I'll be there soon," he said with a quiet intensity as soon as the call ended. James grabbed the rifle he kept hidden in his garage, an old M1 Garand, the same rifle he'd carried through the jungles of Vietnam. It had seen combat, just like him, and it was a constant reminder of the man he had once been. He knew he had to act fast, but he also knew this wouldn't be like the battlefield. This was his home, and there would be no mercy. He marched to the front of the house, his boots crunching the gravel with every step. As he approached the front gate, he saw them, 4 young men, each one drunk on their own arrogance and fueled by hate. They didn't notice him at first. One of them, a stocky figure with a tattoo of a Confederate flag on his arm, turned and saw James standing there, his gaze unwavering. "What's the old man gonna do?" he sneered, taking a step forward, his buddies laughing behind him. "I'm not your problem," James said, his voice low but powerful. "But you are mine." The gang member took a swing at him, but James dodged, his reflexes sharp from years of training. In a flash, he had the man on the ground, his knee on his chest, the M1 Garand aimed at the other 3. "Move another inch, and you'll regret it," James growled. They froze, fear creeping into their eyes. This wasn't the easy target they had hoped for. This was a man who had faced death and walked away. This was a soldier who had seen the worst of humanity and had learned how to survive. But one of the gang members, desperate and irrational, pulled a knife from his belt. In that moment, something inside James clicked. He didn't hesitate. With the speed of someone who had been in life or death situations before, he disarmed the young man, twisting his arm behind his back and forcing him to his knees. "Listen to me," James said, his voice low and steady. "You don't want to make this personal. But if you ever come back here, if you ever threaten my family again, you'll find out just how far I'll go to protect them." The gang members, realizing they were outmatched, backed off, their bravado crumbling. They scrambled into their car, speeding off into the night. James stood there for a moment, the weight of what had just happened settling over him. He wasn't proud of what he had done, but he knew it was necessary. He turned and walked back to the house, his heart pounding, but his resolve stronger than ever. Later that night, as Clara held him in their bed, she whispered, "James, do you think they'll come back?" He sighed, his mind heavy. "I don't know, Clara. But if they do, I'll be ready the next morning." The town was buzzing with rumors. The White Reapers, humiliated and shaken, had never been confronted in such a way. Word spread quickly that James Brooks, the black veteran, had taken them on and won. It wasn't long before the gang found themselves ostracized. Their reputation had been shattered, their power broken. And as for James, he had earned a new kind of respect, one that came not from the battlefield, but from standing firm in the face of hate. The White Reapers disbanded in the weeks that followed, their members now regretting ever crossing paths with a man who had seen and survived the worst of humanity. Scattered to different parts of the country, James Brooks didn't seek fame or recognition. He just wanted peace for his family, for the people he loved. But in the end, his quiet strength spoke louder than anything else ever could. And as he stood on the porch one evening, watching the sun set behind the fields, he knew that he had won more than just a battle. He had reclaimed something far more important, the future of his family.